this little road trip so far, today we've seen an eagle, a coyote, and an animal I've never seen before in Alberta, and that was an antelope. It's quite beautiful, wasn't it?
I liked it. 3 of them we've seen.
All we need now is a Sasquatch, and we've seen everything.
I don't think we're going to see a Sasquatch.
Well, we're off to Dinosaur Provincial Park, so we've probably got to keep an eye out for raptors, because they're the tricky ones, you know.
And Uncle Grumpy saw a porcupine.
I love porcupines. He chased a porcupine. He wanted a prick. I love porcupines.
We'll have to watch his video and see it.
That'll be the first time.
Yeah, well. Whoa!
Well, I guess that's what we get for bitching about Uncle Grumpy. Now, before we get into this landscape photography adventure, I've just got to remind you about something. Today is the last day that you can get my book while it's on sale. We're down to the last few boxes, and once they're gone forever. There's a link in the description. So after hours of driving on the windy prairies, we finally arrived.
Right, so we've arrived at Dinosaur Provincial Park, and there's signs everywhere that are warning you about rattlesnakes and scorpions. So even I have to be sensible sometimes and ditch my appropriate footwear. Now, when you have to ditch your appropriate footwear, what I would recommend is that you put hikers on, but make sure, just to keep things stylish, that you have socks that don't match. Ideally one that's red and one that's any other colour. And then the one that's any other colour, just make sure that you pull that up really high, and then on the other one that's red, you push it down low, so that they absolutely do not match. And that should make up for the loss of your appropriate footwear. Right, should we go and have a look at this park? Alright, I'll be honest, as impressive as this is, it's not really much different to the Drumheller Hoodoos, and not very much different to Writing on Stone Provincial Park. It's just kind of more of the same, but slightly different. And what I think is slightly different about this, I guess this is a bit more like Drumheller, but on a much grander scale. So the hoodoos are kind of similar, and the rock pinnacles, I guess they're rock or sand pinnacles, are more pointy and pyramid shaped. So those are quite fascinating too. But it is really quite beautiful, but it's going to be a challenge to try and find a composition that's going to work with bright blue skies. Like I said earlier, I think this is going to have to end up being a Milky Way shot. But we'll see what we can find. So throughout the park they have these buildings, and what they are is basically buildings that they've built around a fossil finding. So this is what a hadrosaur skeleton. Have a look at this.
Now, for those viewers that are easily triggered, I recommend that you cover your ears now.
And there's a Hagosaurus. Hang on, let me try this again. Hang on, I'll just go back. I'll just sweep this round and then pull it back up. And there is a Butosaurus.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah. Stunnosaurus. There you go.
Oh, now that's a smooth recovery. This place is a landscape photographer's dream come true, and it's actually quite famous for having over 500 specimen discoveries with 58 different dinosaur species, which range from microscopic fern spores right through to big bad meat-eating monsters.
So I have actually been to Dinosaur Provincial Park before, so I kind of knew what I was letting myself in for. And that is a challenging shoot, because just like the other two places, it's so vast, there's so much to look at, that it's very difficult to actually find a definitive composition, that's something that stands out, a scene that is a standout scene in all of this vast open space. It doesn't help, I guess, with this super hard light from the blue sky day, but it is challenging, I'm not going to lie. And I reckon we've got maybe 4 hours, maybe 6 hours of daylight left. So that should be plenty of time to do some recceing and find an idea. The first time I came here, well, the only time I've been here before, I didn't even take my camera out of the bag. I just could not see a shot. I'm really hoping that today I'll at least find something to work with. It's so impressive. Look at this.
Imagine the scene millions of years ago when dinosaurs ruled the earth. As a landscape photographer, however, there were some unforeseen challenges.
And what's really frustrating is that the best scenery that I can see from a distance is always in a restricted area. I'm not allowed to go to the most interesting rock formations that I can see. So that is quite challenging. I'm sure they restrict those areas for a good reason, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating as an artist when you see something that you know you can create this beautiful work of art from and you're not allowed to get there. So maybe it's because they're still finding fossils out here. Probably. I mean, there's got to be, if you look at that, there's still got to be some fossil gold to be found. I don't know what the reasons are. I mean, the other thing that I thought of is maybe because it's such a vast area, if you don't put limits on how far people can go, well then people will just keep going and they'll probably get lost and they'll probably get into serious trouble and need to be rescued. So they probably put those restrictions in place because of liability. One must avoid liability at all times in such a litigious society. Now please sign this waiver. Well, I've struck gold. I found my shot and I'm absolutely delighted with what I'm looking at here. I can't believe we've just spent 5 hours wandering around and this was just behind the visitor centre, just slap bang right here. And I'm shooting a vertical, and what I wouldn't give right now for some moody storm clouds behind that. But all I've got is just a blue sky, which, as you know, I can't stand. However, in about 4 hours, this part of the sky, I don't know if the Milky Way is going to, I think the Milky Way is probably going to be slightly off center there. So I won't get that shot, but I will get some stars behind this. And I don't care that I don't have the galactic core right behind it. It'll be just enough with a little bit of a blanket of stars behind this, because just look at the shapes. I mean, this is about as good as it gets. All these crenellations. And if you look at it vertically as a vertical composition, it all just flows to that pointy pinnacle. It's almost like a thumb. And then this other small nub just behind it. Absolutely everything I would ever hope for. In fact, this is so good, we might have to stay another night.
Oh yeah?
Maybe. As long as we can stand to drink the water, which tastes like, it tastes like mouthwash. I'm sure it's safe to drink, but it's not very palatable. So I've walked around this pinnacle and I've created several compositions that I'm excited to try out during Twilight and the Milky Way. I think they'll be absolutely fantastic. Just a few little stars in the background should set it off nicely. I've tried from the opposite side of the pinnacle and it doesn't work. It's all about this south-facing side, which just works out perfectly straight into the Milky Way. Couldn't have asked for better. Have a look at this.
So here's the composition that I'll be recreating later when the sun goes down and the stars are shining. You know, even if I wasn't obsessed with landscape photography, I would still be completely spellbound by a vista like this.
Right, so I'm delighted about this composition that I've found. But as I said, it's not going to work for at least another 2 hours. I have to wait till twilight. And the camp is only 5 minutes down the road, so let's go back there. Have a nice bacon sandwich for dinner. Bacon and egg and cheese. Oh,
There's only one egg. I'll have it.
I'll have a bacon sandwich. Maybe a glass of vino. You know, it's all right. and then we'll pop back here in a couple of hours and set up a shot.
Yeah.
There's nothing quite like having a strong composition in your back pocket, and all you've really got to do is kill some time.
Alright, so we're back in the camper and we're just prepping dinner. So we've got this, we're going to make a tuna pasta.
Again.
But look at this, let me just show you this. So we manually chopped up some cherry tomatoes, we chopped up some garlic, a whole bunch of onion, and then we've drowned it in olive oil, and we've put some dried herbs in because we couldn't get fresh on the road. And then we'll just put some tuna, tin tuna in that, reduce it, put a little bit of the pasta water so it'll be kind of like starchy and creamy into that, continue to reduce it, and it will taste absolutely fabulous with a bottle of a glass of vino. Yeah.
There is no bottle left.
What?
There is no bottle left. Let's go home.
Well, this might not happen. Looks like we're running low on propane, and this takes a while because you've got to reduce it, right? This might be a salsa. It might be a tuna pasta salsa. I'm sure it'll be delicious.
Come on, propane. Well, it sure smells good, though.
It smells delicious. I wonder if Grumpton got a good shot tonight.
The sky is not terribly interesting.
Yeah, he didn't want to come with us, did he?
I wonder if he was hanging around because he was keeping a secret spot all to himself. He does that. Well, two can play at that game. I'm shit stirring. Well, our tuna pasta turned into a tuna salsa. Just kind of watery because we ran out of propane. What do you think, love?
I think it's delicious.
Yeah? Kind of tastes like a boiled garlic soup.
Well, garlic's good for you. I don't think we'll make the propane mistake again.
It's not been very good in the old kitchen department, has it?
Not today.
Well, I'm experiencing what is known scientifically as the astrophotographer's malaise, which basically is when you have your dinner and perhaps a glass of vino or a beer beverage or something like that, just before you go out to do an astrophotography shoot, and then you just can't be bothered. you just can't. It's like, okay, how do I drag up the energy to get back out there and go shooting after a carbohydrate coma and some booze?
You just think about the stars and the beautiful picture you're gonna get.
Good advice. Oh, and the dessert as well, because a bit of sugar will wake me up.
I know what'll give you the energy you need.
What?
A flake dog.
Yeah, I'm just a bit full. Full now.
You've had one bite.
No, I haven't, because I've got my photographer malaise.
Well, as lunch lady Doris used to say, just eat the scraps too, hey?
Right, so we've left the camper, and now we're headed back to that spot in the dark that we shot earlier. And the sky is completely devoid of clouds, which means I've got lots and lots of stars. Where did you go? You go for a detour? Right, well, I think... Oh, that's it. That's the one.
The tip.
Okay, let's get up there. Right, so I've got the 23mm on the Fujifilm GFX 100S. Let's see if this baby is capable of a super wide astrophotography vertical. I think it'll have no problem. So I've tried a few test shots and the composition looks fantastic, but there are three technical challenges that I'm facing right now. First and foremost is the visitor centre is just right over there, and they've got this bloody big orange light which is blasting on top of the pinnacle, which you may or may not be able to see behind me. What have you? Can you just see that? Maybe the camera could pick that up, but trust me when I tell you, it's not the best look. Although it does kind of look like sunlight that's bouncing off the moon, so you could pretend it's just natural light, but I know that it isn't. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge that I've got is I can't really figure out the white balance settings on the Fuji right now, which is a bit of a an annoyance. Usually when I shoot with the Sony, I just switch it to incandescent, and that gives me a nice blue hue. Right now it's just set to auto white balance and it's very, very red. I've tried a few of the other settings and those are very, very red. I really should have taken the time to learn how to set my own custom white balance settings, but of course I didn't. I totally forgot to do that. So everything's looking kind of red. I guess that's not too much of a challenge. I can always fix that in post. And then the other challenge that I've got is that the galactic core is just ever so slightly off to the right of that main peak. So the balance in the composition is a little bit off. Well, that's blinded. I told you. That's fine. Right. So with a little bit of a adjustment, I've got a nice horizontal composition. So you probably can't see this here, but basically that really cool rock formation I've pushed off to the left of my frame. I've got the galactic core right in the center of the frame, and then there's some peaks in the distance on the right of the frame, and all of this foreground has got this beautiful textured knurled shapes which I absolutely love, and they just kind of draw your eye into the center. So it works really well. Again, I'm struggling with that light. I really wish they'd switch it off, but that's what I'm dealing with, so I'll have to figure that out in post.
In the end, I decided that I really quite enjoyed that light that you see on the pinnacle, and if I hadn't told you that it was from a lamp, well, you'd probably believe that it was sunlight just bouncing off the moon.
So now that the galactic core has moved over to the right, in fact it's almost out of the frame for that composition that I had earlier, for that vertical one. So I'm going to get back into position, switch it to vertical, take a few test shots, and by the time I've done my test shots, I reckon it'll be ready for me to get that shot without the galactic core messing up the composition. So let's get cracking. And I promise this is definitely the last one, love, and we can go to bed.
So what is the best thing about this camera? Well, unlike many cameras, you don't have a 30-second exposure limit, which means I could shoot a 4-minute exposure or longer without the need for a remote. And for this shot, I blended a 30-second exposure with a 4-minute exposure to get maximum detail in those dark shadow areas. Nice.
Well, I think I'm quite happy with how that turned out. Did you have a good night?
That was great. Ooh, I just saw a shooting star.
Did you make a wish?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
What was it?
Can't tell you. Won't come true.
No, tell me.
No.
Did you wish for Fuji to let me keep this camera and all 3 lenses? Was that what it was?
Well, I can't tell you. Won't come true.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, what was that? Was that a raptor?
No, not out in the dark.
It's a T-Rex.
No.
It's a cougar.
Stop it. It's dark and I don't like it.
All right, let's go back to the camper. Come on.